I told you in the briefing room. It's very hot today, so get off as soon as you can and catch me up. No one's to get below me crossing the sea and pecking tight over the enemy coast. All right, good luck. See you later.
Hello and welcome to another video here at Frontline Model Hobbies. And before we get started, I just want to say, really apologise about not getting these videos out. But anyway, we're finally going to get there and these are going to get aired. So this is where I kind of left off. So as you can see, I've just had the ignition wires and just a couple of bits more to do. But anyway, let's crack on with the build. So in this video, we're going to put the engine together and the engine nacelle. So in my infinite wisdom, I decided to put some magnets in here that I got from Amazon, and it turns out that they are crap. Really rubbish. So I thought of a grand idea of basically putting them on the cowling and then gluing them on there, and then I can just remove the cowlings as when I needed. But anyway, yeah, it didn't kind of work out that way. So as you can see, just using some super glue to glue the actual magnet into position. And again, like I said, what turned out to be a grand idea meant that I had to use nearly all the magnets and it still won't work. So yeah, go figure. Anyway, watch me struggle putting this thing together, and really the engine, which is, there's not really much to talk about the engine, to be honest with you, because it is quite self-explanatory and it actually does go together for an early Airfix kit. Anyway, enough said, so see you in a bit. And there we have it. That is the engine virtually complete, built up. Yeah, I think that the engine is a bit oversized. As you can see from the front, everything's a bit squished in there and it's not really moulded in very well, but it kind of looks like a Merlin engine. Yeah, anyway. So this bottom air scoop I'm going to put on separate for reasons, and you will find that out a bit later. But anyway, that is the completed engine section put together. Like I said earlier, as we're going to be in this video, going to be doing the nacelle, as you can see here, and I've found some photo etch for it. Now you can see a bit of a hole gap above that piece of photo etch, and what I did was glue some plastic card like a fascia to cover it. More on that later. But anyway, bit of photo etched in the back as well. Nothing too elaborate, to be honest with you, but I will show you what photo etch sheet I used. But anyway, on the fit of the top cowling, as you can see, literally it's just a drop fit and it fits really well. What I later found out was, and this is the port side, which I did first and I glued in first, is that you really need to make sure that it gets rammed in there into the wing. Oh, here we go again. But anyway, so these are all the bits for the starboard side. I think I've got that right, yes, and this is the side that the engine is going to be open. So anyway, I've got all these bits to make sure that they all fit, and let's crack on with that. So as I said earlier, we're going to be using the Edard Photo Etch set 23031, which I found, and we're going to be putting these parts in here. And I later found out, after doing the port side, is that it comes with the ribs, but never mind. And we're also going to be putting this part in here. Not going to use everything because the undercarriage is flimsy. It is from Airfix anyway. And also we're going to be doing the gear doors, which is very nice. So this is the photo etch set in question. And as you can see, I've already used some parts for the port side. So now we're going to use the starboard side. Now I'm using some Tamiya photo etch scissors here just to cut some parts off. It's flat parts, so it's not a problem. So anyway, I'm going to leave you with me basically gluing some photo etched on a flat part. It's nothing too elaborate. So see you in a bit. Now, after probably the easiest piece of photo etch that I've ever had to use, I went to try and test fit this part, which I found was a bit, well, not great. Anyway, so I moved on to the roof section of the gear bay, as you can see there, and to be fair, it's not a great fit either. And I've wrote L55 because that's the part number. Well done, Rob. You knob. Anyway, so what I found was the actual mating parts were too rounded, so I just squared them off with a scalpel blade, as you can see there, and then I went to test fit. So test fitting found that it still didn't quite match up. There was still a bit of a gap. So yeah, I thought, you know what, I'm going to do the same on the other side. So the nacelle sides, basically they were rounded off, so I trimmed them to make them square, and then test fitted again, which you're going to see in a minute. I know it's a laborious task, but eventually you will get something that will fit and leave you, not, I won't say gap free, but it will give you a better fit. And especially with the hot glue, it will just minimize the gap. And to be fair, it's the best you're going to get. So anyway, moving on to the next part of the photo etch, which is the rear section. And as you can see, I've already glued that round disc on. It's self-explanatory, it's not hard, but the next bit is trying to get this piece on. So yeah, it was a case of just brute force and ignorance, I think, and just slam it in there. Oh God, here I go again. There's no easy way of saying this, but just get your finger in there and wobble it around a bit, and eventually you will get it to sit.
Every year we have to go through this ridiculous charade.
God, you're weird, aren't you? I mean, you're really weird.
And then you could do the pen trick. That is one way of doing it, but generally speaking, if you haven't got a pen that's not fitting that size, then it's not going to go. Okay, so I left you last off talking about photo etched, and the reason being that I didn't come back is because, well, it's gluing photo etched together. Or gluing it on. It's not literally hard. But anyway, not trying to teach you how to suck eggs on this bit, but as you can see, the reason why I'm showing this from start to finish, because I can scarcely believe it myself, but this is the only part that glues together without any issue, without any gap on both sides. I feel faint. I literally feel faint. But anyway, this is the part gluing on. Look at it, lovely. Anyway, so the bit at the top, I left this off because, well, it might not fit. So you're trying to squeeze in the actual plastic part, and then you come along with the photo etch, which is already on there, and it doesn't fit. So it's best just to leave this on. And as you can see, just one little blob of super glue, and literally you put it up against the panel. There's like a panel line there, what have you, and you just put it on there. And as you can see, it kind of goes in. I never like photo etch, but yeah, it does the trick. So next up on this 3-part build sequence of the landing gear bay is the roof of the bay L55, as you can see here. Now I'm just tacking in with some super glue. A, I don't make any mess, and B, if it snaps off and doesn't kind of work out, then I can just clean it up quickly. So the next part, and this is the most important part of the build, is the firewall. The reason being is because you've got the engine that connects to this, and also the landing gear connects to this, and you can either have the landing gear too high, too low, front, back, whatever your wings won't be right, what have you. Now the reason why I'm cutting this bit off is because I put some photo etched on there, so it needs to be trimmed down so that it would accept the width of the photo etched as well. But anyway, so what I'm doing here is just gluing all the parts in and just making sure everything's square, and like I said, test fit, test fit, test fit. So I'm going to leave you with me just basically just gluing bits together. So see you in a bit. So with that all done, as you can see, I've got the gap at the top again, same with the other side, so I need to fill that with some sheet of plastic card over the front, and also we've got a nice alignment on both sides, so I'm quite happy with that, to be honest with you. So in the background, while we were working on the engine nacelle, I was putting this frame on for the engine itself. And one thing I've got to note is that it's the most fragile piece of plastic that I've ever used on any kit. Anyway, so those ignition wires, I'm going to pull off that I put on there because it looks crap. But moving on. So as you can see, we had a big whacking seam line down the middle, and I just wanted to get rid of that. But you've got ribs that go across, so I'm just using a trumpeter scraping tool, or scraper, or whatever you want to call it, just to remove it. And it's a bit rough and ready, but to be fair, I can sand it all out afterwards. So this is just getting rid of the main bulk of it. I'm just making it so that it's nice and clean, because we all know you're going to be in there with a sanding stick and it'll take you 13 years. But we are going to tackle this section. So we're going to manufacture all this air intake flapjack system and filter box and everything like that. But the only downside is I've glued on the air intake duct to the engine. Oh, bugger. So that means I'm going to have to cut it off. But anyway, and you don't see this section anyway. Well, I'll later find out. So I need to profile this section. It needs to be not a flat part, square sort of thing. It needs to be rounded, as you saw in the previous picture. So it needs to be sort of like that. So yeah, and I need to do it without cutting the air intake system underneath. But anyway, so the first thing to do is to put off that air duct system that I cut off the engine, and then basically put it all together and see what clearance I've got. So I'll come back in a minute and I'll show you how I did everything else. So cheerio, see you in a bit. So now we know that we've got the clearance. Next thing to do is to do the profile. So the first line I'm going to draw on here is going to be the final cut line. I don't want to cut any more plastic off than that. So that's where I'm going to draw to. The next line I'm going to do here is going to be the point where I'm going to cut from. So if you look on the side profile, you can see generally that's where you're going to cut to. Now this first line that I'm sketching on here, this is where I'm going to cut to the final point. That is going to be the final profile. It's just literally guesswork at this point. This first line that I'm going to put on here is my first cut line. I don't want to cut any further than that, just in case I make a mistake, because knowing my luck, I'll probably balls it up and I'll regret it later. And then, I think you might have already guessed it, is take the tamiya tape off and then put it on the inside so you can literally cut round the first profile. But before I do that, I just make sure that with my own sanity I've got everything right, and it's going to be about there-ish. Yeah, it's all guesswork. And then I can profile with a scalpel blade so that I can take the tamiya tape off, and then I can start cutting, which I'm going to be doing right now. So chunk by chunk, bit by bit, start scraping out until you've got that profile that you want. However, we've made a bit of a mess to the profile, as you can see. So to make it smoother and look nicer, I'm going to use my electric grinder. Not that type of grind. Oh, stop being dirty. Hey, that's not too bad. That is looking a lot better than I thought it was going to look like. And to be fair, the best advice I can give you is quit while you're ahead. Just don't carry on to keep taking plastic off. The reason being is because you are going to nose it up. But anyway, with the intake trunking in there, I must admit it doesn't look too bad. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the way it looks. Okay, so the next phase is to make the bottom plate that sits in front of the intake trunking. So this is just a reverse, put some tamiya tape on, as you can see, trim round as you saw there, and then just peel off the centerpiece, and then you've got basically a profile. Then you put that down on some plastic card, cut it out, and then you've got a space in there that will fit. So yeah, what I later found out was that yeah, I messed up and I had to redo it again. I had to glue it down onto some plastic card and reprofile it and reshape it. Yes, all right. Stop laughing at the back. You know what? I'm out of here. See you in a bit.
Uh-oh, dog's muck. I'm no stranger to mishap with that. So I'll give it a wide berth. There. Whoa, what was that? Oh, bugger! Oh, bugger!
And there we have it. That is the part glued in, all looking very resplendent. Yeah, now if you do mess up like I do, all you need to do is just take it back off. Don't fret, don't stress. Super glue it down to some plastic card and reprofile it slightly bigger, and then test fit. Sand down, test fit, and sand down, test fit. As you can see in there, it does look really close to the end of the air intake. But to be fair, when the actual filter guard, whatever goes on the front, you're never going to see it in a million, billion years. All right, so first off, I have got a confession to make. Yeah, I was actually putting this part off while doing the actual build because I didn't think it would actually come out. But anyway, that circle bit that I've just shown you there, this bit here is an exploded diagram of that section. So this is what we're going to try and do. Now, best idea for anybody if you want to do scratch building is to draw it out, because you draw it out and you get it into your mind's eye. So we've got the jacks here. We want to be using different rods and this, that and the other, and the actual widths of everything I've put down here. So this is the maximum amount of widths that I've got to play with. Oh god, here we go, innuendo time. Yeah, stop laughing at the back. But anyway, so this is what I'm going to be building out of just basically plastic sheet, and as you can see there, that's what I've come up with so far. And all it is just plastic sheet of different thicknesses and brass rod and tin foil. That's all I used, and just profiled and kept to my drawing. The reason being, like I said, you do a drawing, is that you've got something reference to, because obviously the drawing from the book is not going to be to the scale of what you're trying to do. So to make these jacks, I've just used some brass tube and some metal rod that I found which is right size, which was looking enough for me, and I've just made sure that it's the right length. Length. But anyway, so just test fit in there, and then I can cut the brass tube to the right widths as well, as you can see there, and I'll just show you how I do that with the vernier calipers. And also I've used some tin foil as well, just for another element of detail. So yeah, I'll leave you with that. And finally, that bit is now done. And I must admit, during the build, I was dreading this section here. Reason being is just because it's that fiddly and that small. And no, it's not me. It's this that I'm talking about. So yeah. Anyway, so next part is to do this rib part here. Ribbed. So this section here, it's not really too hard to do, to be honest with you. Just make sure you measure twice and cut once, because you are going to be doing it about 14 times. And to be fair, I didn't actually do it more than twice. So yeah, quite happy with that. So I'm going to leave you with this bit. Cheerio, see you in a bit. Okay, with all that done, and we're nearly ready for paint, one thing I forgot to mention was that I've glued 4 of these circles, one there, one there, one there, and one there. And I think you might have already guessed, but that is for the landing gear, just to have a bit more of a stronger hold position for the landing gear to fit into. And literally all it is just some plastic tube with end caps put on there, and the same with these areas here. I've just put them on there, and that's just basically for the wiring that comes from the back of the engine and goes through the firewall to its various areas. So they're just connection points really. And so yeah, quite happy and quite pleased with the way it's come out. So next thing I've got to do is just another piece of scratch building, and then kind of near enough done. And there's a hole there which you'll see which is kind of covered up, but yeah, I'll explain that later. So the next phase is to put in this oil filter thingy there, and basically all I make it out of, the bracket that is the photo etched from the wheelbase set from Edard. So I've cut a piece out and then I'll just profile. So anyway, I'm going to leave you with me trying to profile and bending and usual things. So anyway, cheerio, see you in a bit. Do you know what? I am really happy with that, and I must admit it really does look good on the paint as well. So yeah, happy. Anyway, moving on. So this strip at the top of the engine bay, as I saw in a picture, has got some rivets on it. So I'm using the MDC 30-second riveting tool. It just provides round rivets, and yeah, so what I did was I measured the strip in its entirety and divided it by how many rivets I saw in the picture, so it's real amount of rivets. Oh god, it's Geek of the Week.
Jeffrey, Mr. Half of Bitter. Well, half a bitter, lonely old gitter. It's flat cap, plastic mag, not too chummy, lives with mummy. Tank top Oxfam shop. Rides a bico, could be a psycho. Very boring, end of story. Next. Right.
So one thing I noticed was that when I went to test fit everything, the engine, the nacelle to the wing and all this, that and the other, that the actual engine frame that sits onto the top of the bulkhead, the firewall, just there was a massive gap. So to fill that gap, I would need to put some plastic card on there. And that's what I'm going to be doing. So anyway, I'm going to shut up as usual, and you can see me messing about. See you in a bit. One final thing to note while I'm here is the fit of the nacelle to the actual wing itself. So as you can see, I'll be trimming, and you do need to trim these areas off to make sure it does fit, because it doesn't actually go all the way in. Yeah, see you in a bit. And with the trimming done, that's what you want to be looking out for. A nice fitting area with no gap. And also, the actual top cowling piece fits. Oh my god. Ah, here we go. We're always going to get the one. Yes, it doesn't fit here. So, the problem is this area here. So, it protrudes too much and it stops that area from fitting. So you just need to trim that area down and it should be fine. Okay, so far we've been lucky in the way that all we've really had to do is add detail. With the exception of the bottom of the engine bay where I did all the flapjacks and all this, that and the other, Generally speaking, you don't really need to do that unless you're removing the engine. But that being said, this area that I'm sort of trying to scribe on here like an idiot is a must if you are wanting to detail the engine bay and expose the engine bay come what may. Now, this area here is actually for the pipework that runs from behind the cockpit, which, if you remember back in the cockpit videos ages ago, I added that tubing behind the actual pilot's and the navigator's seat. They go to the various engine bays, so we need to add that in. So I have actually drawn it on there, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to test fit and make sure that the actual pipework is actually going to come through and go where I need it to go. And I'm just making sure that it's going to sit about there, so I'm happy with that. So when the profile is formed, all you need to do is drill on the inner edge of the said profile all the way around, and then you've got an area where all you need to do is take a scalpel blade and cut through. Yay, there we have it. It's out. Nice one. So next thing is to literally scrape with a scalpel blade, clean, fresh, new scalpel blade, and just try and get it as smooth and as straight as you can. Also, I would recommend using a file, which you're going to see in a minute. So again, cheerio, see you in a bit. And there we have it. It doesn't look too bad, to be honest with you. I'm happy with that. Oh, bugger. I noticed this bit when I put it onto the wing. So literally drew around it with a Sharpie just to see what needs to be taken off. And then when I removed the nacelle, realised that it was only this bit. So I just trimmed that back. Not too hard of a task. Also, I noticed that just needed smartening up. So I put this plastic strip on there. And then also I noticed in pictures of the real aircraft that there's a bit of a lip that goes around on the inner edge on this bit that I've just cut out. So yeah, geek of the week time. Let's do this bit. So I'm going to leave you with this. Cheerio, see you in a bit. And there we have it. That is that section complete. And one thing to note is that I used 0.13mm plastic card cut to a width of a 1mm strip for this section. So yeah, and speaking of 0.13mm, this is what I'm using for this next part, and it's the ribs on the bottom of the engine bay, and these were cut to about 0.25mm or something daft like that. Literally super fine, and all I did was literally tack in with some super glue at one end and then push down with my finger and then trim on the other side and then glue in with just some normal glue. As simple as that. Anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Also, I just want to say as well, I really apologise for the lateness of this video. Yes, I must admit it's been over 100 days, but anyway, I am back on track. So anyway, yes, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheerio.